Good afternoon and welcome to 365 Days of Amazing Stories with Theo Mayer. Here we are on day 312. I'm continuing the story of Jullanar, of the sea, from 1001 Arabian Nights. I remember that King Badir was quite taken by this Queen Lab, and for day after day after day they enjoyed each other's company, living in luxury in this beautiful palace that overlooked the sea. Day after day was a repeat of just the joy of being alive, the joy of the senses. But on the 40th day, they slept together, and in the morning, when Badir woke up, Queen Lab wasn't next to him. She had been every other morning. And he got up thinking, okay, she must be somewhere close, but she wasn't. And he went out looking for her through the palace and then into the gardens. And as he's in the gardens, he notices in a tree a white bird and a black bird, and birds around them that were kind of making a bit of a commotion. And as he's looking, he sees that the blackbird is basically fawning all over this white bird. Back and forth they go in the most loving of ways. And he's taken by this, so he's watching, observing these birds, what they do. And suddenly, the white bird transforms into a woman. And he looks more closely, and it ends up being Queen Lab. Now, he's been hidden all this time, and he does not allow her to see that he's witnessed all that has gone on. But something stirs in his heart, jealousy, because it seemed that these two birds were being quite loving with each other in the way that he felt that she was toward him. Well, he ended up going back and laying down in bed, and in a short amount of time, Queen Lab came back and tried to treat him as she normally did, with sweet gestures and words, and he wouldn't have any of it. She wondered what was going on, but something had shifted inside of him, where he did not feel the same or as confident as he had in the beginning. I have this wonderful little young person coming by who's on his bike. He's come by to listen to my story, haven't you? So, Queen Lab does what she can to bring King Badir back into her presence and company, and Badir's just not going to have any of it. And later in the evening, she tries to talk about it with him, and he says, it's been a long time since I've seen my uncle. I'd very much like to go see him tomorrow. So in the morning, that's what I'm going to be doing. The two of them spent a somewhat awkward night with each other. It was clear that something had shifted. And in the morning, Badir saddled up his horse and rode to see the fava bean seller, the merchant. When he rode up, the merchant was so incredibly glad to see him and relieved to see that nothing ill had befallen him. He looked happy, healthy, was clothed magnificently. And the horse that he was riding was beautiful as well. Beautiful Arabian steed. Well, he tied up the horse there at the merchant's shop and went in. The two of them began to talk, and he asked how everything was going, and Badir shared with him all that had taken place. The fava bean merchant, he just shook his head. He said, God, she's such a deceptive soul. She said, things have changed, and believe me, now that you've caught on to what she is and what she's doing, she will seek to destroy you. But I will make sure that that does not happen. He said, follow my instructions and follow them closely, and we will see what happens. So the two of them began to chat. Now the thing is that part of what he had seen, Badir, the evening before, was very odd behavior by Queen Lab. She'd gotten out of her bed in the middle of the night, and while Badir was watching, she took red sand and threw it out into the middle of the floor. And this red sand had become a stream. And beside the stream, Queen Lab planted barley seeds, which grew up almost immediately, the heads of which she harvested. With a wave of her hand, all disappeared in the stream. The barley that had been planted on its banks, and all that was left in a bowl was the harvested barley. It was in a mortar, which a pestle stood by, and she had ground that into a flour.
I see you with a no cap on that table. I saw that.
Well, when the merchant heard this, he said, we will take care of this. And he began to give King Badir instructions how to counter what Queen Lab was getting ready to do. What works in people's minds to get them to treat another person in not the most pleasant of ways? One thing for sure is they feel separate and don't feel the unity that we all have with everything. For if we did, we would never do harm to anyone or anything. We'll leave the story there. Find out what happens next. Thanks for joining. Have a good rest of your day.